It's time for a sneak peek. Sneak peek, sneak peek.
My philosophy around leadership is has so many facets to it, but it's more than a position or a title, a tenure. It's how you show up every day. Whether you're the janitor or the CEO, it's about the energy you bring to every interaction, and no matter what your position is.
And now, on with the show.
When you're feeling the pressure, take a moment to step back, pick up your marbles, and choose to lead with levity. Join us on the Lead with Levity podcast for fireside chats that will fill your bucket and help you get back to being the leader you were meant to be. Now here's your host, Dr. Heather Walker.
Well, welcome back to the Lead with Levity podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Heather Walker, and I have the pleasure of introducing our next guest today, Tonya Kay Herb. Tonya is the life coach as well as leadership coach, CEO, entrepreneur extraordinaire, wearing all the hats at Outspoken. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation today with Tonya about just everything that goes into leadership and how can we prepare ourselves? How can we continue to support ourselves as we walk through this journey to make our companies better? So Tonya, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hey, Heather, I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I know. Listeners, you have no idea, but before we hit record, we both hopped on this call and we said, I don't even know how this happened. How did we how did we schedule this? I have no idea. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. It's one of those days, Tonya, for me. I don't know if you have this on your calendar sometimes, but I looked at my calendar today and I saw that I had 8 meetings. 8 meetings. This is meeting number 3 for me. Sometimes on days like this, I'll look ahead and I'll say, okay, I've got this, bing, bam, boom. This is how I'm going to tackle it. And usually it goes really well. And this is one of those meetings where I said, I think I have an idea of how this meeting is going to go. We'll just see how it goes.
We'll just see how it goes.
Yes.
Sometimes I think the best meetings are unscripted, right? You go in with the best of intention and showing up the way that you're really meant to show up, and just being in the moment with someone and just sharing that space. It usually turns out pretty well.
Yes. And I'm really curious. I love your background. I mentioned this to you before.
Thank you.
You said that you have stories behind everything. And let me just paint a picture for anyone who's listening in and who can't see this. Tonya has this beautiful, it's almost like a chalkboard wall, coffee colored chalkboard. And then, this really nice mocha colored lamp. And I see, what is this? Like a waterfall spa, like water feature. And then there's a bicycle on the wall and you've got hugs and kisses with some books. It's just so cozy. I feel like I could walk into your space right now, lounge, and tell you everything.
That is exactly what this space is designed for, because this is my home office. And I do have clients that are local here in Boise, come here and just spill it all, right? It's a safe space for people to show up in. And also for people that are Zooming in with me, they get to also see that. So even though you're not in the space, you get to feel it. So everything that's in this room speaks to me, like that makes me feel good about how I show up, both in leadership and in life. And so that's why it's designed the way it is. And I have a couple stories about that bicycle on the wall back there.
Yeah. Did you have a point where you looked at your space and you said, I want this space to be that kind of a cozy space that reflects who I am? Like, what's the story behind that?
It started with something that I needed for myself, right? When COVID hit and we all came home and we ended up being on Zoom and learning how to be virtual in our worlds, I recognized that I needed a space that was not exhausting me, right? Something that fed my soul. And so the little bit of water feature that's back there's a little tiny thing, right? It just sits on my credenza and it just, I can hear the water trickling and that, and my, every time I'm near water, I feel at peace. And so I recognize when I'm starting to feel anxious in the day, I just go plug it in, turn it on.
Oh, nice.
But that bicycle, I keep leaning over so you can see it, but that bicycle I bought years before we were ever in a home office, right? I worked in corporate and I was on a sales call with one of our financial advisors, and we had gone out to this place that's local here in Boise, and they sell fireplaces, like after the fact fireplaces that you would, not like the stoves, but the ones that you can put in the wall. I don't know
Okay.
anything about fireplaces, but anyways, they had homed goods too. And so as we were walking out, I noticed this bicycle leaning along the wall. It just came in, they were unpacking everything. And moments later, I found myself paying for it. I paid $100 for that bicycle and
That's
I had
cute.
no idea what I was going to do with it. I brought it home and my husband said, "What are you going to do with that?" And I said, "I don't know. It spoke to me." Right. And so it literally sat under my stairs, the storage space under your stairs in your home. Sometimes some places have those. It sat in there for 4 or 5 years and I kept moving it and moving it. And I'd be like, why do I keep moving this? Why am I hanging on to this?
Yeah.
And I had no idea. Fast forward, COVID, we're all home, we're working from home. I'm sick and tired of my kitchen table. I'd been there for 3 weeks and I was like, I need a home office. So I tore apart the guest bedroom, made
Mhm.
myself a home office, and I'm sitting around going, I need something on the wall. Where's that bike? That would be great. Let's put that bike up. And I literally stuck it on the wall. I had no idea behind it. I just was like, I need something to look at. And what I recognized as I'm staring off into space, I don't know if you ever do this, Heather, where you're just not really being productive for the moment, but just in your thought process, staring past whatever's in the room.
Mm.
I started to realize that our lives are very much like bicycles. And it's as corny as it sounds. It takes all the parts and pieces of your life, your past experiences, your belief systems, all of those things, just like a bicycle, that they help us move forward. We have to have all the parts of those spaces in our life to move forward, and very much like a bicycle. And so I started to develop this idea or theory
Yeah.
about that bicycle. And so I
Ooh.
use it in my coaching, and it's very much a staple in how we show up as the best versions of ourselves as leaders, just showing up in general. So that's really how that bicycle came to life. And it's on the wall. It's part of my business.
You know what? I am a little bit of an artist at heart. I've taken some classes, but nothing serious. And what I absolutely love about just creativity is it transfers, right? So you might be painting one day and you can put that down, and then you can apply that same creativity to a problem at work, a process that needs to be fixed. You can put that down. You can apply that same creativity to a PowerPoint that needs to be worked on. And I love how you took your creativity and you said, you know what? I found something that speaks to me deep in a way that I didn't expect. And I'm not quite sure what the home for this is going to be, but I'm going to hold on to this because there's something about this that lights me up and gets me excited. And I
Mhm.
don't know what it is yet, but when I find it, when I find it, I will know. And I love that you were able to take the inspiration for that bicycle and turn it into something that actually fuels your work with clients. So, how do you do that? Do you have the pedals or this, the wheels or that? Like, how does this factor in?
Okay, so it really what we use is bike as an acronym.
Oh,
And that if we back up just a little bit and talk about really how the bike fits into our lives and how we show up in our lives, I want to just skip to one space that we started talking about earlier, and that is leadership. My philosophy around leadership is more than a position or a title, a tenure. It's how you show up every day, whether you're the janitor or the CEO. It's about the energy you bring to every interaction, and no matter what your position is. And that's really where I start in my coaching theory, is a lot of times we find ourselves in leadership positions and we don't have the training to lead people. We just do one thing or a few things really well, and we have a passion for it. And we start to leverage ourselves, and we hire an assistant or we hire a few people. And we start to recognize that in order for us to actually elevate those around us, we have to let go and delegate a few things, but also show up as a leader. And if we don't know what we mean or who we are as a leader, we have to define it. And I use that bike to define it. And so the acronym be you. Like, we don't have to prove anything. And a lot of times we filter how we show up based on what we think others expect of us. So if we could really step into that feeling of being ourselves, so be you, right? Then that all automatically tears down some of those walls just a little bit. And I'm just giving you microdoses of this because there's a whole training around it. The I stands for insight. And I don't know about you, Heather, but I'm an introvert. So I get all spun up in my head when I walk into new networking situations, or I'm going on stage and I'm like, what if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid? What if? I mean, my head just spins out of control. And so in order to take that primitive brain and calm her down and say, okay, listen, let's just get curious about what other people are doing here in this space. So insight, what insight can I gain? What can I learn about you? What can I learn about me? What will I learn about my philosophy just inside this conversation? So we're going to be more of ourselves. That's the B. We're going to look for more insight, get curious. And the K stands for kindness. That just seems so simple, right? Of course we want kindness, but we're not talking about niceties or politeness. We're talking about genuine, from your heart and soul kindness, because there's science behind the state of kindness. When you show kindness to another, your brain's pleasure and reward center lights up as if you're the receiver and not the giver. So your body doesn't know any different. And that's how your brain accepts it. So you're going to be more of yourself. You're curious. You're looking for insight. You're showing genuine kindness as a human being. Yeah. And the E stands for engage. Now, I don't know about you, but I've sat across many a table where someone's been scrolling as we're chatting, and it just feels so disengaging. It's like disempowering. It just feels like there's not a connection there. Right. And when we think about engagement as a genuine connection, which we're all starving for, that human connection, not connected to our screens or devices, but connected to each other. Brene Brown brings this home for us, and she talks about connection and engagement being an energy that's exchanged between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. And so when we take the BIKE acronym and we start to develop our identity around being more of ourselves, being curious about how others operate and what lights them up, genuine kindness and engaging with others, that changes how we show up in the world. As a leader, as a human being, as a sister, as a wife, as a daughter, it changes everything. Just that simple bicycle.
I would love to dig into this a little bit and thank you for sharing. I'm curious about kindness. I had someone on this podcast a long time ago. Her name was Cole Baker Beck. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find her name. We're still friends on LinkedIn too.
Great.
Yes. And kindness is something that I think can be misinterpreted as people pleasing or overlooking everything. So what do you notice in terms of maybe myths and how you would clean up some of those myths around the idea of kindness.
You bring up something that's really important to talk about, and that is that people pleasing
Mm-hmm.
space. And that people pleasing is completely different. It has a different element that is holding it up. And people pleasing, a lot of times, will start from that need for validation, need to
Mm-hmm.
be liked, fear of not being liked. There's a lot of things that are holding up that we can break down with understanding what kindness truly is. And I touched on it with niceties and politeness, because people pleasing tends to stay in that space, the niceties and kindness, niceties and politeness, because it's how we're supposed to act, it's how we're supposed to be. Kindness, there's nothing, no ulterior motive. It's a feel good type thing. It's like a pay it forward. There's no expectation around it. And I think that if I'm going back into my memory bank, I just finished reading the Let Them Theory that Mel Robbins wrote.
Ooh.
And there's some pieces in that I think I think people really can learn a lot about themselves when they start letting go of expectations about how they should show up and expectations from others. And when you start letting those things go, you really can feel kindness. Because I don't know about you, Heather, I have a question for you. Can I bring this back around? Is for you, what does kindness feel like for you when you're receiving it or giving it? What emotion is wrapped up in that?
That's a good question. I would say for me, kindness feels like a pleasant surprise sometimes. Ooh, this is warm. It
Mhm.
is sometimes surprising, sometimes it's not. But I think if you're expecting kindness and you get kindness, okay, it's almost like it doesn't register. So for
Right.
me, it registers when it's unexpected. That's why I
Mhm.
say it's like an unexpected, pleasant surprise. Feels very warm, fuzzy. It it can lead to reciprocation. Like you feel like, oh, what can I do for them? I'm
Yes.
so happy that they thought of me in this way. I feel special, and I want to
Mhm.
find a way to help them feel special too.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I think I agree. I think the warm, fuzzy, like hot cocoa, cozy blanket kind of day.
Yeah.
If you think about it, sometimes it can be even brought forward with just a simple smile. And it's not a forced smile, it's just that hi kind
I
of
see
thing.
you.
Yeah, I see you. And it goes back to that space that Brene Brown talks about as far as the connection, right? When people feel seen, heard, valued, that kindness can build that connection and that friendship, if you will.
Hmm.
And I don't want to use friendship loosely, because I think that's a sacred space. I believe that friends and friendship is so beautiful and should be honored in that way, with that kindness and connection.
Yeah. Do you think we're on a kindness deficit right now? I don't have the answer to this question, by the way. It
Mm,
just popped in my head.
wow, that is a great question. That's a pondering question. A kindness deficit. I would say, in my opinion, right now, what's coming up for me, what's just rising for me, is I believe we've lost the art a little bit of what kindness truly is. And I'm going to describe this in something that comes back for me, and that's a lot of times I find myself just hanging out in my own little bubble, the
Yeah,
thoughts
because
that are
it's
spinning.
cozy. Why wouldn't you?
Right? Right. Not just the space, but thinking about the headspace. So if I'm thinking about kindness in this way, this is really evolving in my thought process right now. I am thinking about self-kindness. That's where I think the biggest deficit is. We talk about self-care, but we don't talk about self-kindness. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think about the thoughts that spin in my head. They're not always kind
Right.
about myself.
Yeah.
That self-talk, that negativity that kind of takes hold in there sometimes. And I think learning to practice, and I say practice with a genuine emphasis, because I think practice means that we're trying and we're doing and we're aware daily that kindness is an art and it has to be worked on. And the reason that we do that, the reason I bring that up is because I think it starts with being kind to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like self-care.
You can't give someone something that you don't have already to give. So, one thing that strikes me about self-kindness is we walk around all day long. And if I were to tell you, Tonya, that I go to work, I get up, I brush my teeth, I get ready, I go to work, and in every single meeting that I'm in, there's this really evil woman who's constantly like giving me the side eye and telling me all kinds of nasty things. And she's sending me private messages in the chat. And she's just like, why'd you say that? That was terrible. You should go. Just don't even bother showing up to the next meeting. And I told you this, Tonya, you would probably say what to me? What would you say if I was sitting in your couch right now? I'm like, I've got this person, and she shows up in every single meeting, everywhere I go, and then I log off, and she's with me in the kitchen. When I go on a walk, when I go to the store, she's just constantly being so mean to me. What would you say?
Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. What would I say? Okay, so my initial reaction, the unkind was, is one is you need to have a little chat with her because she needs to go. She's gonna go bye-bye. We need to have a little chat. She's toxic here.
Yeah.
But having said that, isn't that true? If we had someone on our team that was that toxic, we'd be having a chat and a development meeting. We would be going, okay, we got to work on it. We got to work on our attitude because you're just spreading this stuff everywhere. This is no good.
Yeah.
But since it's us, we're talking about the other us.
Yeah.
What I really want to go into is how she gets so nasty, right? The thing is that there's a little girl in there that wasn't able to speak up, that wasn't heard, that was diminished or dismissed. And so she's bitter because no one wrapped her in a big warm hug with kindness. And so some of that is what needs to come out. We need to just let her know, little Heather. We need to just let her know.
I thought you were gonna say little B. little Heather is nicer, kinder. Thank you.
So the B, Heather, what we need to do is just let her know that it's okay. We've got it. We've got her, right? Her voice is going to be heard. We're going to calm this down, right? You are worthy. You are valued. You are here for a reason. And I appreciate and love you. And that's where we start, is we actually have this third person conversation with that side of us and in that headspace. And I know it sounds like I'm a crazy girl talking, but I do this with my clients all the time. And we go and we identify the age that this starts. And I'm not a therapist, but we identify the age of where it starts and the feelings that went with all of those little pieces in life. And now we understand her. And now we know how to love her so that she doesn't get as much stage time as she once thought she needed in the naughty behavior, right? When you have a naughty kid, you're trying not to call attention to the naughty behavior. You're trying to redirect. And that's all we're trying to do is redirect it. Redirect our thoughts, how we think about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves.
Oftentimes there's a need, like that
100.
That voice is screaming because there's a need that's not being met.
That's not being met.
And so it's about identifying what that is. And then once you do and you meet that need, there's no need for the screaming anymore. Now you're working hand in hand, you're working together.
If you imagine that space as your younger self or a need, right? You can identify it either way, however it works with your brain, then you can address that need. And there was something, I was just looking for this book and I'm scrunching down here because it's right here on my bookshelf. The Liberty of Our Language Revealed by Thomas Blackwell. It talks about the language we use for ourselves when we're referring and talking to ourselves, the language inside your head.
Okay. This is so good. I wrote it down. I was just going to say, we're actually out of time.
Oh my gosh, that went so
Believe it or
fast.
not. It did. It went by so fast. This is your levity moment for the day. Can you wrap up what you were about to say? I want closure. Now I'm like, what were you going to say?
I was going to come back to the book, the language. I started it. We were on a flight from New York. I started it the second I got on the plane. I finished it the next morning by 8 a.m. I couldn't even put it down.
Whoa.
Just because it was such an easy read and it made so much sense in my brain about how to talk to myself. So that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's a good resource. Thank
worth the
you.
read.
And then if anyone is interested in learning a little bit more about you, connecting with you, where should they go?
You can reach me on Instagram. Hey, Tonya Kay.
Hey, at
Or-
Tonya Kay.
Hey, Tonya Kay is my Instagram handle. Or you can email me at hello@tonyakay.co. And my website is tonyakay.co.
Keeping it simple. Thank
Mhm.
you. I
Easy to
appreciate
get
you
to me.
so much.
Heather,
Thank you
thank
for joining me today. This is a great conversation. And I am going to check out this book because I think it's something that we can all work on. Honestly, we've got these little people who walk with us all day long,
Yep.
and they need support too.
They need love and kindness for sure.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lead with Levity podcast. To get resources mentioned in this episode and find out what we're all about, check us out at leadwithlevity.com.